Hello everybody, my name is William. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Today we're doing another FSEconomy flight back in the Cessna 208B Grand Caravan. We'll be picking up where we left off, Hudson's Hope, and flying on to two destinations today. We'll be going first stop Swanell, second stop Seike. Should be a fun flight. We're going to try and follow some valleys and everything along the way. To get there and hopefully have a smooth ride, which is something we haven't had for the past few flights. Anyways, let's go ahead and get on into the planning so we can get on with the flight. We'll go ahead and start out on FSEconomy today for the planning side. You can see we have all these passengers loaded up in our loading area going from Hudson's Hope to two different destinations. They're both actually 112 miles away. Furthest one from us, or our last stop today is they're both the same distance, but our last stop today is going to be Seike, because Swanell is actually just a little bit further to the south, so we'll hit it first and then it'll just be a short little hop on over to Seike. We have no seats left available in the aircraft, so we're really maximizing it, making the most money we really can on this flight by doing two stops like this. There wasn't enough jobs going to just one of them to make it one stop, and also doing those short little hops after can be pretty fun. We do have 110 gallons of Jet A on board. If you watched the last flight, you'll know Hudson's Hope does have Jet A. I could refuel a little bit if I need to, but they don't have a lot available, so I don't want to run them dry of Jet A. I don't want to be that guy, so we don't necessarily need it. And if we look here at Swanell and Seike, we can see they both have Jet A available and plenty more, like thousands of gallons more available for us, which is kind of funny because they're smaller airports, but it's just the way the person that owns those FBOs has decided to stock them. So we'll fill up there and not run them out of Jet A here at Hudson's Hope. We take a look on SkyVector. This is kind of the route. So over here we have Hudson's Hope, and then all the way up here we have Seike. And I would show you Swanell on here, but it is actually not even loaded. But it's going to be somewhere around this area, basically for our flight. So we'll just be flying up to basically the same place, and then just unloading the aircraft real quick and turning around, taking right back off and flying on to Seike to complete our flight. Also, you can see I planned this little point out because I plan on taking off, and then we're going to fly out over the water and then up basically to the north instead of flying a direct route over the mountains. That's just been a really bumpy ride as of late, and I want to see if we can smoothen it out a little bit, especially because we are going to be very full of passengers for the flight today. So that's all I really have as far as the planning goes, so we can go ahead and get into the aircraft, get on with the flight. Welcome on board the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan, everybody. We're on the ramp here at Hudson's Hope. We're ready to get the aircraft started and get on our way towards our first stop. So we'll go ahead and open up both the fuel tanks. Hear how stormy it is out there. Get the prop on full and add a little bit of power in. Go battery on. The ground crew's already given us a pushback, so we're ready to start the aircraft up, basically. We get a beacon on, avionics on as well. Make sure we do have our parking brake set. We do. We'll go fuel boost on, and we'll hit the starter. What I like to do is just make sure the prop is spinning, it's going up, get our oil pressure up here into, or out of the red range basically. And we'll take the condition lever and put it to low idle. So we have fuel flow now, NG's rising, ITT's climbing, and basically we're just going to sit here now and make sure all this stuff stays in a good range. And set my CDI to GPS while we're over here, kind of waiting. Bearing 1 to GPS as well. Okay, there we go. Hit the starter off. Everything looks like it's in the green, so we'll go ahead and pull the power back. We'll leave the lever in low idle. Just remember to turn it on, or put it all the way forward before we take off today, and we'll set the fuel boost to normal now as well. It's pretty warm outside, so we're going to leave the anti-ice stuff off. You can see we're on the ground. Hudson's Hope, we have runway 05 and 2 tree. That is basically at the end of the runway. We're kind of heavy today, so unless the wind is like something crazy, which it looks like it's about 2 knots, yeah, wind calm, we're going to use runway 05 for departure, which is the one literally right there. So we just got to taxi around this TBM and turn left. So let's get the aircraft set up for departure. It's such a short taxi. We'll go ahead and put 250 in the heading bug, as that's kind of what it looked like on Sky Vector. The heading we want to fly to kind of get over the water. At least that's a good initial heading after we take off. Oh, sorry there, really zoomed in. We'll also set 6,500 feet in for the altitude. A good initial altitude. If we need to go higher, we can. If we need to go lower, we can. Get the wind data up on option 3. And yeah, it's 2 knots. We'll call that calm. And then we'll just go ahead and go, because we can, transponder code on VFR there and put it on. So with that, we are basically ready to start our taxi and almost ready for takeoff. So yeah, we're going downhill, so it's going to have to be a nice tight turn to avoid this TBM. Our taxi light on. And we got nothing over here. So we'll taxi up. And then we'll just basically hang a left and line ourselves up with the runway. Get ready for takeoff today. Go ahead and go our takeoff flaps out. We'll put the conditioner lever to full idle. Or flight idle, full. Get our strobes on, landing lights on, taxi light off. So we're coming to line up now. Go ahead and come to a stop right here. Okay, so we're going to set our power and then release the brakes. And we're looking to rotate today at about 70 knots is what we're going to be looking for. So let's go ahead and set our power. Slowly feed it up. I don't have a whole lot of range on my what I use for power. So it's really easy to get a little bit too aggressive with it and set too high of a power setting. Power set, we're rolling, waiting on the airspeed to come alive now. There it is, airspeed's alive. So next thing we're looking for is 70 knots. And we'll rotate out. There's 70 knots. Okay, we have a positive rate. Let's go for 83 and we'll climb out at that for the moment. Okay, we're well and clear of the trees. Just trying to hold around this heading of like 054, 055. Let's pitch back down. And let's get our flaps in and add more back pressure here. Trying to avoid sinking. We basically completely stalled out our climb there for a moment, but didn't start going back down towards the earth, which is what I was trying to avoid. So now we're going to climb out, and we're looking for around 110 knots on the climb out today. And we'll start a gentle left turn to get on about that 250 heading. Go ahead and zoom the map out a little bit so you can kind of see where we're going. So we're going back over the plateau now that we kind of flew over into Hudson's Hope. And then we'll probably be flying over, I think, one of the ridge lines here. If we can get enough altitude, we'll just cut straight over that ridge line and get on towards the valley that we're going to be following, basically all the way there. So we just got about 10 degrees to go before we're on 250. You can see all this lightning and thunder. It's a bunch of... You could hear the thunder. You could see all the cloud-to-cloud lightning going on. I don't know if that's something new from the most recent update, or if that's... I've just never flown in weather conditions that's had something like that, but... Definitely seen some more lightning and heard some more thunder since the Japan update came out. Just take a look over the nose. We're above that first ridgeline, so we'll just continue climbing on 250. You can see there's the water over there. It's the start of the valley, and you can kind of see it now. Just off to about our 1 o'clock is kind of the valley that we're going to be shooting towards to follow through. So we're up above that ridge line, so we'll go ahead and kind of turn to the right a little bit here. Or 5,000 feet, climbing. Whoa, that's a big lightning strike right in front of us. That was pretty cool. We'll continue climbing on this heading, and we've just got about 1,200 feet to go to we're at 6,500 feet. We do have a little bit more wind now. Looks like it's about 6 knots from about 220 to 230. We'll just keep on climbing up, follow this valley all the way out, kind of until it meets the main waterway. So we'll just fly kind of west all the way through and snake our way through, and then we'll hit this main waterway, and that'll allow us to basically shoot off towards the north and get on our way. A little bit out of the way for the flight today, but really, I had so much bad turbulence on the flights we've done over the mountains, and I've had so much turbulence recently. I'd really just like to enjoy some smooth air for once, in all honesty. So we're at about 6,500 feet now. Just start leveling the aircraft out. We'll keep the power setting in. Try and get some good ground speed to kind of make up for the fact that we are taking the long way around. As long as it stays smooth, which so far it's been pretty smooth. Looks like it's a lot clearer off towards our west as well. We got a weird layer of clouds with all the lightning and everything else going on. But it looks like the cloud cover up further towards the west and the north doesn't really look to be there, so it doesn't seem to be there anyways. Do have about 10 knots on the nose on this heading, which is perfectly fine. Just try and trim the aircraft out a little bit, make it a little easier to hand fly. So there we are, basically 6,500 feet. Nice and smooth. The aircraft trimmed out almost perfectly. Almost. We're doing 171 knots true, 165 knots ground. You can say thank you to the headwind for that. It's actually going to slow us down a little bit, but that's okay. The ride is smooth, and that is what I was after. I'm sure the passengers in the back would be appreciating that as well. So we'll go ahead and pull the power on back a little bit, as I don't want to be burning up that much fuel. Now we'll just pull it back a touch, and let's make sure I probably need to retrim the aircraft after it settles on its, whatever its airspeed's going to be. Just enjoy the beautiful British Columbia countryside and the lovely mountains. Pretty nice day once we get away from all this lightning. Come on back down to 6,500 feet, and we'll go ahead and shortcut this little bit. We have great visibility, so I'm not really worried. If we do need to go higher for any reason, we can. I do know the valley that we're kind of flying through gets quite a bit more narrow in a little bit. So if for any reason we need to go a little bit higher, we can, even though there is a little bit of cloud cover as well. It's still 12 degrees C at this altitude, and it was right around 20 degrees on the ground, so it should be nice and warm and don't have to worry too much about it if we need to climb higher as far as going through a cloud. But the important thing is that our visibility is good enough to where if there is something that we should have to climb for, we should be able to plan for it and see it coming a long way off, fortunately. So still need to trim the aircraft up just a little bit. Have some neutral pressure on the controls. And there it is. So a very satisfying feeling getting it trimmed out nicely. Yeah, there we go. We're getting rocked around a little bit now. So it's kind of what I wanted to test. We're flying over this mountain here. And basically the second we start flying over it, the turbulent air coming off of it starts kind of rocking us around a little bit. Which makes total sense. I mean, you would expect that, but it is also nice that I can fly over the water like this and have smoother air. And not that that was that rough at all. That was pretty mild compared to some of the turbulence we've had in our recent flights. But, you know, you start flying over those big mountains that we have off our right wing here. You know, that turbulent air is probably going to be a little bit worse than what it was just over that one little ridgeline we crossed over. So let's keep chugging along, following the valley. A nice, relaxing flight. Alright, so we're coming up to just a little bit of a turn here on our little valley that we're following. I was thinking about climbing up and going over the mountains just to take a little bit more of a shortcut instead of following this all the way through. But ultimately, I mean, it's not going to add a whole lot more time, and we've had a super smooth flight doing it this way, so it will take a little bit longer But I've really been enjoying flying the aircraft and just being able to kind of look around as we go. Yeah, the coastline basically around here has just been beautiful. Some of these mountains are breathtaking as well. It's a very nice day for this flight. Once again, we can see one of my personal favorite things, one of those little mountaintop ponds sitting right on top of the mountain there. Looks great. And we're getting a little bit of some weirdness going on with the textures. Like this mountain looks great, and then this one just kind of looks like it's on some sort of a generic texture. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. And we can also see some clouds coming up in our valley as we kind of peer over the top of that ridgeline. So we'll see what we have in store whenever we make this right-hand turn here momentarily. Definitely some interesting stuff going on with the textures. Not sure if it's just an issue with the satellite imagery or potentially something with my internet not being fast enough to download all of this. I wouldn't think that's the case. I don't have the greatest internet in the world, but it hasn't struggled anywhere else. And the only other place I've seen some of this with the textures has been in Alaska. Just select areas just didn't, it seemed like it just didn't have satellite imagery. And see if we were any lower, this valley is completely blocked by clouds down low. That's really cool. Now just kind of make sure we're not climbing too much. We start our right turn. Starting to head a little bit more in the right direction now. Basically follow the ridgeline the valley all the way up. And then if you can see here on the map, we're just going to follow this all the way up, and then once we get to the main channel, just hang a right, and you can see our airfield is a bit further inland than I thought when I was looking at Sky Vector. But hopefully that's not like a big mountain range or anything that we got to cross over to get to the airfield. Also, the runways at the airfield are basically north-south, so realistically we should be okay to have a if we're coming up that way, we should have a decent shot at just running basically straight into like a base leg for one of the runways. Just take a look at this. I mean, the mountain textures have kind of gone down, but look at this cloud just completely blocking off the valley here. It's okay, we're gonna fly right above it. Also see some angry looking clouds further off in the distance. They definitely look a little bit angrier. They got some good vertical building going on in them, at least to some extent. But hopefully we're already on the channel by the time we get to the clouds like that. Strangely enough, we're starting to get into some more clouds, and we're kind of getting away from the lightning and thunder. It's cleared up above us quite a bit. So interesting. I'm not sure. Like I said, I think that lightning and thunder thing that's got to be new. It's not like we were in a thunderstorm or anything. It was just, I guess, the right conditions for a bunch of cloud-to-cloud lightning. It's cool to see. It still felt pretty weird, though. We're just about to come out onto the main channel now. I think I'm actually going to change up my initial plan, just based off of where the airport is. Well, actually, I'm kind of in between. We'll take a look at it once we get a little closer. But you can see here on the map, we could fly basically up this little waterway and follow the river, which is between the terrain, and then it'll kind of sneak us through into the airfield. Or we can fly up like I had initially planned and then just try and cut over at some point and get into the airfield that way. I guess either one, it doesn't really matter. We can kind of see what the conditions are like. There's some low clouds around kind of this area. Hopefully there's none around the airfield. But it does look like it clears up basically the further north we go. You know, I mean, it does kind of sound... It sounds like a good idea to follow the river all the way up through and get into the airfield that way. But ultimately, I think just making a right-hand turn here and staying out over the water is probably going to be the better bet. So we'll go with that. So we can see the waterway that we'd be following basically is directly on our nose, right up with all these clouds and everything. You know, we just follow through. But we'll stick to the initial plan. It's not really a great reason to change it at the moment. See off behind us. Take a look at all those clouds off the other direction, off our left wing. And it looks like we got a decent amount up as well if we continue off towards the north. Hopefully it's not too bad though. Go ahead and start a right turn. Give these clouds a nice wide berth. And essentially point the aircraft directly towards the airfield on our kind of bearing pointer right there. Just kind of stay over one of the shorelines. I guess if Swanell is kind of clouded in, we can always try for our other destination. And hopefully have some better luck. Kind of see an airport up here off our right side. Just kind of want to see what it looks like in there. It's like a nice little cove. There's probably the airfield right there, and that since it's so discolored compared to around it, it's probably located in there, maybe with like a little village or something. That's tucked right into the mountains. That'd be a really cool place to go off into. Really scenic location to fly into, I'm sure. Just for my reference now, we'll go ahead and set the heading bug, and we'll kind of try and set it. Looks like it's about 295 is what our heading would be if we were going to go direct to the airfield at the moment. This looks like it'd be a really nice lake to be on. I'm sure that may or may not be true. It's easy to say in the sim, but on a somewhat warmish day, it looks like it would be absolutely beautiful to be on this lake. It's surrounded by mountains, beautiful scenery all the way around. I personally do not do too well in boats. Well, that's actually not true. If you're going slowly in a boat and it's really rocking around, I get seasick in like 30 seconds flat. But if you're actually carrying some speed and kind of zipping over them, for some reason it doesn't bother me there. Which is also something I've never really understood, because I've only ever felt sick once in an airplane. And in all honesty, I shouldn't have flown that day. I had to tell my instructor while we were doing just some pattern work, and I had to tell him, like, he's like, okay, well, let's request a touch and go, and I was like, no, this one's gonna be a full stop. So I am about to completely ruin all of these instruments. So yeah, that wasn't a fun time, but like I said, I was already kind of feeling not so great that day. And other than that, I've never gotten sick, even doing like unusual attitudes and everything in instrument training, especially where you've got the little goggles that kind of blind you as it is, and then you're staring down at your shoes basically while your instructor throws the plane into a dive or a steep turn or some sort of crazy climb, and you just gotta look up and recover. I've never felt sick. But you put me on a boat that's just trundling along, rocking about in the waves, and I just immediately feel seasick. Very peculiar. I'm sure you're all just on the edge of your seats like, oh yeah, really? Tell me more. Tell me more about your boat adventures and how you puke. It's so awesome. I guess I just find it interesting that that's really the only place I get any kind of motion sickness. And talking about boats just made me randomly think of it, but it is what it is. I guess it's a good thing I've never really been a huge fan of boats. It's not like it's holding me back from anything I've ever dreamed of. Being a captain or something. And that would really suck if you, it's kind of like joining the Navy, having never been on a boat, and then they'll put you on something, and that's when you find out you get seasick. That would be some rough times. We'll just continue to follow this valley, basically, or this main body of water. Get plenty of room off towards our left and right from the terrain. Nowhere near as confined as is where we flew out of, but we do have this low layer of clouds right off our nose. Just hoping that it kind of clears up after that. So airfield we're going into, we have a decent sized runway, but it's not like it's going to be lit or we're going to be able to fly any kind of instrument approach into it. So we'll just hope that it's nice and clear on the ground up there. If not, like I said, we've got our other couple airports around the area. There's actually a few airstrips in that area that we could try to get into. Alright, so we're continuing up the valley. We're actually about to intercept our GPS course that was from where we left. You can see we're just crossing over the line now, basically. So had we flown from, was it Hudson's Hope, direct to Swanell, would have been right about here, but flying over that ridgeline. And we're actually going to go ahead and start turning towards the left a little bit and plan to get over this terrain we got in front of us here. So we're going to have to cross over it. We could fly all the way to the end, but we have the altitude at 6,500 to basically shortcut this a little bit and get on to our destination a little bit faster. The wind is still about 2 knots. Now it's out of the south, but that's still good enough for wind calm. Even with that, I think we have a couple runways available to us, S1L. We have one runway available to us. It's 03 and 21. I think I want to plan for runway 21, because that would mean we could probably taxi down the runway and turn around and then take off actually the direction we kind of need to be going to go to Zeke, which should be right up there basically. So we're not going very far. We just got to get to the little top bit up there. I think that actually might be the runway right around where my mouse is. So we'll plan for, like I said, we'll plan for 2-1, and that basically puts us almost in a left base right now for the runway in all actuality. So you can see we do have these clouds up here I'm slightly worried about. We'll set our runway, or we'll set our heading bug to the rough runway heading of 210. We're going to fly over this ridgeline and really just kind of hope here that we can see the airfield. Our airport elevation should be around 22 to 2,300 feet, so we'll plan for 2,300 feet. Just go ahead and plan for it being a little bit higher. And we'll start descending and increase our airspeed a little bit. That's just fine. I think it might be right in the middle of those clouds. Which really sucks because the weather is so perfect. It's just if it's sitting right in the middle of that cloud. We'll see if we can see it. Either way, we'll continue in. We'll pull the power back a little bit. Just remember, when we're coming in here, we can get our approach flaps out at 150. We can go full landing flaps in the white arc on the speed, which should be at 125. Nothing else to really worry about as far as that is concerned. I don't see anything out there. I just see a big old cloud, and I'm basically looking right where it should be. It's just 7 miles, and there's just a big cloud there. So let's just continue flying westbound. We'll continue descending. Hopefully the cloud isn't, so we can see past it or get kind of around it. Let's just hope we can kind of see the airfield. Fortunately, the weather looks clear off towards our north, So if we have to just go directly to ZK, we can go ahead and do that. Just 5 miles now. No visual on it. I think it's right in that cloud. Like I said, we're still gonna try. Let's see, we have the runway heading in, or the runway, yeah, we have our heading in on the heading bug to kind of give us an idea of the runway. So let's put it directly on the 90 degrees, or close to. That way we can just start looking out the left and just hope that we see it. Just have this low cloud hanging right over us. Right over where we're trying to go. I guess we could try and go in. We'll see what happens. See if we get a visual on anything. Start getting down into the clouds. We'll just have to, without seeing anything, we'll just have to continue on to ZK. Yeah, look at it. Like, this could not be in a worse spot. Yeah, I don't think that there's any way we're going to see the airfield. 2.5 miles in front of us. We don't have any kind of approach we could do into here to help us down. And we're above the cloud. But like, unless we can just see it as we start getting closer. About 800 feet over the ground right now. I have no visibility on anything out the nose here. 1.5 miles from the field. We'll continue going down. We'll see if we can spot it at the last second, but I doubt we're going to be able to pull this off. Is that the runway? Is that actually the runway?
500.
I think this is the runway. Look at this. Okay, that's the runway. We're gonna abort that. I feel like we could do that, but that is not a safe approach. So we'll get our takeoff flaps out here, or our approach flaps. We're gonna climb back up, and we're gonna do a left kind of abbreviated pattern here. I feel like we can make that work. Now that I kind of know what we're looking for, the visibility is shockingly bad. So we'll continue out. I need a little bit of distance so we can really get ourselves established here and not have to worry. Anything else is just going to make this really ludicrously dangerous. Not that it's not already, but... So we'll go ahead and fly kind of our downwind leg and give us a lot of time. We had enough time that I kind of felt like I could see the runway. Which I think ultimately we did. You just see... I don't know if you guys can just see it there, but that looks like the runway to me. That we're kind of a beam of right now. And maybe the visibility will get a little bit better. That would be awesome. We'll continue flying outbound here. We're going to hold around this altitude. I don't know if you guys saw that either, but we definitely had this bit of terrain that we were flying over, and it kind of slopes down into where the airfield is. So we'll start our left turn now. We'll start slowing the aircraft down. Just make sure we still have no flaps out, so we can go for approach flaps. And let's go ahead and do that. Let's get our approach flaps out. Let's go ahead and get our landing flaps out. Problem last time was we were too high and too fast, so. Re-enter that into the GPS so that we have a fresh direct to course. I know we're kind of lined up with the runway. Nice and slow. Just keep it relatively safe, but nice and slow. We have 1.8 miles to go. 700 feet over the ground. And right around 75 knots is what I want. One mile now. Looks like it is 210 from us.
500.
500 feet. Nothing visible yet. Is that it? Did you guys see that? It's like a nice little clearing. Yeah, I think this is definitely our runway. We're really pitching down for it, using those flaps. Even now, we're still coming in crazy high. We're gonna have to get on the reversers. So we are really floating down. Some back pressure here and get some brakes in. I knew we had plenty of runway to work with. I wasn't so worried about that, but wow, that was pretty stressful. Those low clouds make that so much more difficult. Okay, so we'll clear off to the left here. Get our landing light off, get our strobe light off too. That cloud would just have to hang right over the airport. We'll go ahead and stop here. And we will just set our parking brake, which is all we have to do for the flight to close in the FSEconomy client. So now that we are on the ground, we can go ahead and try to get the flight set back up. Okay, so I just realized I didn't have the client where you guys could see it when we started, but the aircraft's at Swanell, and we're ready to start the flight and pick up the rest of the passengers, or make sure they're still on board for us to depart. They still trust me enough after that approach, apparently. They're all crazy, so they are ready to to get on to their destination. So we're just going to use the nearest again, and we'll go down to Charlie Bravo November 9er. We'll hit direct course 2, and then activate enter accept. And that's going to put it up there into our map for us to follow if we want. We also got it set up on the CDI. So we'll get our taxi light on. We'll go ahead and get our strobe light on at this point. Get our takeoff flaps out. We don't need full flaps here. And what we're going to do is we kind of know the way in. We'll disengage our parking brake too. Since we kind of know the way in, from that direction, we'll taxi back and use 05 for departure, We know we have a ridgeline that we've got to get up and above, basically, but we have plenty of runway. We'll just, like I said, I wasn't so worried about the runway we had available. That's why I didn't mind floating down. It's just, it was impossible to spot the runway up until about the point where I feel like I spotted it. I mean, it's super late, you're really high. It kind of blends in. It's a bit of a, you know, it's a gravel runway. It's a little bit difficult to see when you're looking through a white kind of fog layer. Go ahead and turn around here. Get our landing lights on. Taxi light off. A little bit of power in. We do have our takeoff flaps out. So we're ready now. We can go full power. We're going to take off, fly this heading. We do not want to go to the left any, as the terrain just gets higher the farther left we go. And we'll just hand fly on to Sketchy. So takeoff power coming in. And we'll release the brakes. Once again, 70 knots for our rotation speed. Hit 83 and just climb on 83 knots, basically, is going to be my plan. Airspeed is well and truly alive. Coming up on 60 knots, looking for 70. There's 70. We'll rotate. Continue accelerating a little bit. We'll go. There we go, and we will climb. Getting a good rate out, and we're actually getting just more and more visibility as we continue to climb. We'll go ahead and get our flaps in, and we'll really pitch back to fight that sink. Really just want to maintain our climb rate. We're up and out of the fog layer, just like that. Ooh, that was a wild approach. Hope you all enjoyed that. It was a little bit of intensity after a nice, calm, relaxing, just casual hand flight. Or hand flying for like about an hour. We don't need to climb up very high. We have runway 1 tree and tree 1 available to us. That we'll be going into. We have our flaps in. Just continue to climb a little bit more. Get a little bit of trim in. Let the aircraft do the work for me real quick. And we'll go ahead and set up. We're going to plan for runway tree 1. So that'll just be the shortest distance, basically, us not having to circle around. So we'll put tree 10 in the heading bug. A good reference. And it is just now 9 miles off the nose. You see this little tiny hill we got in front of us. We're going to fly off to the right side of it. And that should allow us to turn a... basically just kind of merge us into a final for runway tree 1 once we get it in sight. And give us plenty of time to get ourselves established on the approach as well. So I know this may have been a little bit of a longer flight, a little bit more hectic and everything than normal, but I hope you all have enjoyed so far. If you have, make sure to like the video, subscribe if you want to see some more stuff like this, as always. I appreciate having you all along, and for all the support. It is really awesome. And I love doing stuff like that. That approach, that was, yeah, that one would have gone somewhere else in real life. I would not have ever attempted that, but the fun of Sims sometimes. See if you can actually do it. So as long as you understand it's a sim, and just because you can do it in there doesn't mean you should do it elsewhere. Okay, so we need to start kind of looking for our runway. We can see this on the map. We can see the body of water going off towards the north, and the airport's just on the left side of it, the west side of it, and we can kind of see the same thing right there. So I'm going to call that our runway, because that must be it. I thought maybe this was the runway when we were coming up, but it just doesn't make sense for the directions, obviously. So we'll start prepping for that. Nestled right up against these mountains here. We need to pull the power back, get below 150 so we can get our approach flaps out. Once again, we're getting some landing practice today. Lord knows I need it. Get below 150. Really pull that power out. And there's 150. Approach flaps out. That is the airfield for sure now. So, fight the sink a little bit. Or the balloon in that case. They're really ballooning up after getting the approach flaps out. I just want to kind of cheat in a little bit. And get our landing flaps out. Once again, same thing. We're going to aim for around 75 knots on the slower end of the approach speed today. Fortunately, we could see the runway already. And yeah, don't take that for granted. This is much more casual than our last approach, that is for sure. Alright, so we're coming through 80 knots. Still coming down. 750 feet above the ground at the moment. We're getting to our approach speed of about 77, 76. That's just fine. Wind's still calm.
500.
It's 500 feet. Do have some trees. We just got to thread the needle here, make sure we're nice and lined up. It's a very pretty looking area. Pull the power out and softly touch down here. Just hold the nose. Keep it center line. Just continue to add back pressure just as we slow down. Just keep the nose nice and light. And we'll go ahead and kind of roll out towards the end here. And see, you could get really crazy with the, I'm not sure how realistic that is at, you know, 26 knots if you pull all the way back on the controls. That you could actually lift the nose of the Caravan up. I guess it would probably depend on your center of gravity and all of that. So maybe that would be enough airflow to really give, but I don't know. If the weight was mostly loaded in the tail of the plane, it might just want to do that anyways. We'll go ahead and turn around at the end here. Looks like we're kind of by a road. So we'll just pull the aircraft forward a little bit. Go ahead and sit there. We'll set our parking brake, which once again will stop our flight in FSEconomy. So you could see the client now, and the aircraft is on the ground and available at our destination. So we'll hide that out of the way and go through and get the aircraft ready, well, shut down. We're ready for shutdown at this point. So landing lights off, strobe light off, we'll leave our beacon light on. We go ahead and get our avionics off, fuel boost off, mixture cut off, And that is going to complete our flight in Flight Sim, per usual. Thank you very much, Flight Sim. I'm still really salty that I can't turn that off somehow. Beacon light off, battery off, and then we'll close up the fuel tanks. We're going to leave the plane here, at least for the night, before we continue on to anywhere else. So I hope you all enjoyed the trip. I hope you enjoyed that lovely approach into Swanell. That was definitely something I enjoyed. So until our next adventure, I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.